Hey everyone, welcome to Adam's retrospective reviews and out of the theater reactions. This is a new video blog and podcast that I'm going to start, and basically, what I'm going to cover is my out of the theater movie reactions to new releases, and I'm also going to cover older films that I grew up with that kind of have ties to the films that are coming out. Now, my first one that I'm going to cover today is Batman 1989. Now, this was a movie that was really, really big when I was a kid. It came out on June 30th of 1989. I was 5 years old. And it has a personal significance for me because it was the first movie that my grandparents actually took me to see. And not only that, but my Aunt Barbara Helen, that just passed away this year, one of the last gifts that I received from her was a VHS copy of it. And that was a movie that I watched many, many times when I was little. It's widely regarded as one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. And I would like to kind of discuss my thoughts on it, just what I like about it, what I think still holds up, what works the best, and what's dated and what I feel like doesn't. So first off, the first thing that I want to start talking about is one of the things I think that works the best in this movie is the performances. Now, having watched this for the first time recently in a while, one of the things that struck me about it is it seems more like a Joker origin story movie much more than it is a Batman movie. Nicholson's Joker is really, really good in this. Now, I've heard a lot of arguments online about how people talk about who the best Joker was. And in truthfulness, I think that's a bit of an asinine argument because I feel like each Joker performance is kind of tailored to the universe and the film that it's actually set in. And what they were trying to go for in this one is they were trying to kind of blend the comics with a little bit of a graphic novel kind of feel with the performance. Now, I've heard people say that this Joker leans too much into the Cesar Romero version from the television show. And yes, there is a fair amount of camp. But I dare say there's actually 2 or 3 moments in this movie where Nicholson in the part is legitimately scary. Most notably the one where he, right after he falls into the acid and he goes to see the plastic surgeon, that moment when he looks in the mirror and then you first hear the Joker laugh. And I love the way that Burton actually shoots this. He kind of shoots him from afar and you don't see the face, you only hear the laugh, and he's kind of kept in a bit of a silhouette as he gets away. They don't do the full reveal of him until like 1 or 2 scenes later when he goes to find the mob boss that betrayed him and kills him in the process. His performance in this is really, really over the top, but it's what the part requires. And I mean, Nicholson is just one of those actors that just adds so many odd and unusual touches to parts whenever he acts. And you look at it and it's like, that's just really strange, but somehow it fits, you know? And he's really, really, really good in this. And I read online, somebody had talked about his performance. They said that all that they did was put him in makeup and told him a camera was rolling and told him to act natural, which if you've read any of his misadventures off of movie sets, I would actually tend to believe that. But it's a great performance, and I think it's not only one of his best, but I think it's actually one of the best in comic book movie history. Now we're on to Keaton's Batman. That performance is really, really strong. And the funny thing of it is back in the day, whenever it was announced that he was playing Bruce Wayne and Batman, boy, there was a huge backlash. The comic book fans were angry, and they actually sent, I think there was a total of 180,000 letters to DC and Warner Brothers about this, saying, oh gosh, this is going to be a disaster. This is going to be like the TV show. it's just not going to be any good at all. And it turned out that wasn't the case. And I think another reason, too, that they were kind of hesitant is because Keaton was known mostly as a comedy style actor, from his parts in Night Shift and Johnny Dangerously and Beetlejuice, which he'd actually worked with Burton the year before that. But I tell you what, when he's in the suit, the suit, the suit basically does a lot of the work. And just the way that he moves his body and just the glares that he gives and the way that Burton shoots him, he's legitimately formidable in this. And the thing that I love that Burton does is he does it kind of from like the point of view of the criminals. He'll be up like on a higher level, or he'll be facing them, or you'll see him from the back. And just his movements, and it's almost like something out of a horror film. And that's actually something that kind of Christopher Nolan did whenever he went on to his Dark Knight trilogy. But he does, and the voice too. I really like how he does the voice in this particular film. He does it in a way that's really kind of a whisper, but there's a little bit of a growl and quite a bit of power behind it. And I thought that he did the voice the best out of, every Batman actor that's ever been. But he does enough to differentiate between Bruce Wayne and Batman, which is key. And with his Bruce Wayne, he's really kind of neurotic, but yet laid back. And you can tell that this guy is legitimately crazy on top of that. But Keaton's just fantastic. And, he's widely regarded as the best one. And a lot of people look at him in the same breath as Bond fans look at Sean Connery or Daniel Craig now. And, even in that Flash movie that came out last year, when he reprised the role, he was easily the best part of it. Now, the one thing that I do really love about this film is the visual design. It's got this weird kind of combination of time periods. Because when you look at like the city buildings and the architecture, it looks like something from an old Gothic horror film. And then you look at the wardrobe and it's like something from about the 1930s or the 1940s. And then it also has modern touches too, such as the automobiles and, the Prince music whenever it plays. But it's just such a weird combination. And one of the things that I noticed too about it is there aren't any daylight shots in this film. It's all overcast, or it's shot at nighttime, or it's in like a darkened room. So it's got that. So I think they did that on purpose to kind of keep the dark feel of the comic, and it really, really works. The fight scenes in this are decent. They're good for their time. Pretty standard by kind of that decade. But there's one fight in particular that's really, really brutal. And it's the one where he fights the last Joker goon, who they kind of establish in that particular scene as being really strong, persistent, and not going to go down easy. And pretty mad. I don't know what it was, but that fight scene, it actually legitimately made my body hurt at about 2 or 3 points. And Batman, just gets pummeled in that particular scene. And he eventually does win, of course. And they kind of do that old trope from like the 80s where the hero is facing a villain that he's physically outmatched by. And he basically has to use his wits to beat him. It's like what they used to do in the old Indiana Jones movies. I will say that that particular fight scene is diluted a little bit when somebody pointed out that guy actually looks like Ray Charles on steroids. So I think that kind of going forward, I'm not going to ever look at that scene quite the same again. Of course, Danny Elfman's music is really, really good. Elfman is one of my favorite composers in film, along with John Williams, and I like Hans Zimmer quite a bit as well. Now, the one thing that I I don't know, the one element of it I feel like doesn't maybe hold up that well or tonally just seems kind of off is the Prince music. And I think that that was an instance where the studio basically kind of forced that upon Burton because Prince was under contract with Warner Brothers. And they, being the 80s, Warner Brothers wanted to be able to release a compilation album just as a means to generate more revenue. And I don't know what it is, but it just seems like anytime that there's a Prince song playing in that particular film, I don't know, it feels like for what they're going for, they're going for like a really dark and brooding and kind of intense type of film. It seems like that kind of shifts it a little bit tonally, and it makes it more campy feeling than it needs to be. Um, and I don't know, it just feels like in an odd way, it's almost like a musical sequence. And I think that maybe if they played like one or two songs, I think maybe one at the best, at the most, I should say. Um, I think it would have been okay. And I'm trying to figure out what else I'm going to say, think about. Um, One thing that I will say is that it's not entirely faithful to the comics. Um, them revealing that the Joker is the murderer of Bruce's parents. When in the comics it was Joe Chill, I should say. But I think that they did that because they were trying to figure out a way to kind of tie the Batman Joker conflict together. And it's really um it's something that I never minded, but I can see kind of the other point of view as to why others wouldn't like it. Um and Batman in this is I know that one thing that comic fans complain about this particular movie is that he kills. And this Batman is practically a serial killer compared to how he was in the later comics and kind of the later movies. But I think that what they were doing is they were going by the original comic where he did actually kill. So it doesn't really bother me that much as a fan, but I see the viewpoint of others too. But this is a movie that I really enjoy. If you've not seen it, I would say definitely check it out. Yeah, and it's probably it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I will always have a soft spot for it. So, well, that's it. Thank you very much for checking out my podcast, and I will be back the next one with an out of the theater review for Joker Folie à Deux. I hope everyone has a great day and take care. And thank you for your likes and your support.